Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today we are going to talk about all of the books that I read in March. It is the 31st of March, so I probably won't finish the book today, so we can talk about all the books I've read in March. The most books I've read in March were Kathy Reichs books in the Temperance Brennan series. So we have quite a few of those. I'm still continuing on with that series. I still have quite a few to go, but I am really enjoying reading them. So there are a lot of them in here. I also read some Brandon Sanderson. I did make quite a bit of progress for my physical TBR this month. And yeah, let's hope that will continue in the next few months. If you can hear some tipper tipper, that is my dog. My partner just left to get us food and visit his grandma. So my dog is a little bit annoyed that he left without him. So if you can hear noises, crying, it's just my dog because he is not happy with the situation. So let's start with the first book that I read in March, and that is Deathly Decisions by Kathy Reichs. This is part 3 in the Temperance Brennan series. So one of the earlier ones, and actually the one that I liked the least. So yeah, this one has pretty much the topic of motorcycle gangs, a topic that I really don't enjoy in no shape or form. I just get annoyed at the topic, to be honest. But yeah, we have a motorcycle gang. They blow something up. They find some killed people on their property, and Temperance has to find out what happened there and why that has all happened. And then we also have some innocent bystanders dying, which really annoys her. And then the book goes off from there. If you know the Temperance Brennan series, the main character is Temperance Brennan. She's a forensic anthropologist, so she deals with people who died not of natural causes or people who are not, well, who are pretty much more Bones than anything else, which is why the TV series is actually called Bones. But yeah, I much prefer the books, so I read this one. But yeah, this one only got 3 stars because personally I didn't enjoy the topic. After that, I continued with Fatal Voyage. This one I have actually already read before in German, but this time around I read the English version. This is one of my favorites so far from the series. This is about a plane crash. There were some students in the plane, and then there is a detective on the plane with a criminal who is supposed to go to a different prison. All of them die, and it is a pretty good showing of what happens when like such a mass casualty happens. And so yeah, that was really interesting. I really like the case. It has a little bit more twists and turns than most of her cases, but I did enjoy that because not only the plane crash, but like also the place where the plane crashes has something to do with the case. So that was really interesting. But yeah, this one, 4.5 stars from me. I really do enjoy this one. Also, this is part 4 in the Temperance Brennan series. Then I, directly after that, read Grave Secrets by Kathy Reichs. This is the 5th part in the series. This one is a crossover where she is not only in Canada but also in Guatemala City. She does an old dig, and they dig up some people who died during like a military coup uprising situation in Guatemala, and they want to give peace to the people as like on a humanitarian mission. They want to give peace to the people's living relatives so that they can actually bury their dead. And while she's there, there are 4 girls going missing, and she gets brought onto the case because of how the first victim is found. And so she's supposed to help there, and then they go a little bit of back and forth between Canada and Guatemala City, because normally Temperance Brennan is in Canada and America, but this time around she gets sent to another city. So yeah, this one was also really interesting. This one got 4 stars from me. I liked the case. There were some a little bit more annoying parts of the case, but that has to do with what happens with the case, so I can't really tell you why, because obviously I don't want to spoil you, even though the series is bitey old now, but yeah, I think if you haven't read these, I would actually really, really recommend reading the series. And I mean, I obviously have a really limited amount of fillers that I've read so far, but for me personally, I really enjoy this series. I think it's like a really, really, it's like really basic baseline for like thrillers, and I enjoy the main character, so for me the series really works out. After that, I finally read a book that isn't a Kathy Reichs books. I listened to System Collapse, the 7th book in the Murderbot Diary series by Martha Wells. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. It was a fantastic book. I am so sad that it's currently the most recent book in the series, so I don't have any left to read. But yeah, the Murderbot Diaries, Part 7, Chef's Kiss. I loved that book so much. I was so sad when it was over. So yeah, if you don't know what the Murderbot Diaries are about, it's about Murderbot. That's the name the main character gave himself. He is a security unit, a sec unit. And at the beginning of the series, he goes on to digs with corporations, and he is pretty much brought on to do the security, and he is an android, and he kind of belongs to the corporations. And then he hacks his own government module, and everything goes from there. Also, he loves media, and he's really, really socially awkward. Fantastic series. 7 books are out there so far, and yeah, the 7th one was really, really good, but I want more. So please, Martha Wells, write more. That would be great. Then I did a reread, only that I listened to the book, but yeah, I reread A Taste for Poison, which is a book about poisons, or pretty much normal medicine that can be used as a poison, and cases in history where that was used to kill somebody. And that is a really interesting book. I really liked it the first time around, and I didn't know what to listen to, so I did a re-listen. And yeah, it is a 5-star book for me. It is really interesting if you ever wanted to know about like those. There are more interesting criminal cases because most people think they can get away with it because it's not like really obvious that they poison people. And some of them also worked in hospitals, like it's also a topic of that. And some of these are, for example, insulin. You can kill people with insulin, if you didn't know. But yeah, that is actually a really interesting book, and yeah, would recommend to listen. Also, it's by Neil Bradbury, forgot to say that. Then I listened to another book that I found to be really interesting, but I know the reviews generally are kind of mixed, and that is The Craving Mind. From Cigarettes to Smartphones to Love. Why we get hooked and how we can break bad habits, and it's pretty much a book about addiction. And he talks primarily about cigarettes, because that is something that he, the author, Judson Brewer, actually did his research in, and he helped people with that and to kick addiction pretty much. And it's a really, really interesting book, how addiction functions and why some people are just more prone to addiction. And then he, in the second half, which is why I only gave it 4 stars, he goes more into meditation and mindfulness training, which I think is a sensible thing. I personally just don't do that. I haven't found meditation like manageable for me. Like, I don't enjoy it. I find it weird. I can't get into it, but I do know that it's really, really doable. But yeah, I feel like there maybe could have been a little bit less of the meditation part and a little bit more of the scientific part. But yeah, I did still enjoy it, and so I gave it 4 stars. If you are somebody who is from a family with a lot of addiction in it, I would really recommend it. Like, being able to like understand where addiction is coming from and maybe like a little bit of a sneak peek what could help is actually kind of nice. Not that you are not accountable for the addictions around you, but I mean, sometimes you just have family members you would really like to help, and so that might actually not be a bad idea to inform yourself a little bit on what you could do. Then we come to the next Kathy Reichs books. As I told you, I read quite a few of them, and that is Crossbones. Crossbones I gave 3 stars. This is about an Orthodox Jew who gets gets shot in the head, and then it's kind of like, oh, was it suicide? Was it not? What happened here? And the whole thing spirals out from there, and they go to the Holy City and do some stuff there. And then obviously in Canada, I found it to be just too weird. It was too convoluted. I didn't really enjoy it. It's also, there are some bones that are supposed to be like 2,000 years old. There's a lot of religion in this one. A touch too much for me personally. So I gave it 3 stars. It's one of those, you know, I feel like in series, especially in series that go on for so long, because there are, I think, over 20 of these books out there. I think some cases are more interesting than others, just as the motorcycle case. This one I also didn't find to be that interesting, to be honest. So yeah, kind of still don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, there's a lot of like connected death with some bones that just go missing from a museum and stuff. It's too much of like coincidences in the book. That this really hinges on the coincidences that somebody is in the right place at the right time, or for like either getting some really important information or getting killed. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't enjoy this one as much as the other ones, so 3 stars. It's still not a bad book, but you know, there are better ones in the series. Also, I don't believe that you have to read these in order if you don't care about her personal life, which does come up in books, not super much, but it does come up. So if you don't really care about the personal life of her, you can read them in any order you want, or just skip ones you don't want. So yeah, that is totally doable, which is why I don't mind. You know, I've read them once, now I know which ones I won't reread and which ones I might possibly reread in the future. Then the next one was quite the disappointment, which I'm actually happy to say that I had really few disappointments this month, but this one was the biggest one by far. This is Whalefall by Daniel Kraus, and this is sold as a horror book, coupled with The Martian, but it's an underwater book about a guy who gets swallowed by a whale, and pretty much the horror is supposed to be getting out of the whale. Instead, this is a book about a 17-year-old boy who is grieving his father, and who gets pretty badly emotionally abused by his whole complete family, and they get him, like, he feels like he has to go into the sea and retrieve his father's bones because his father decided to commit suicide after a cancer diagnosis, and he really didn't have long to live. And he decides the only way he can make his family whole again is to dive into the sea, get the bones, and bring them back to his family because they couldn't bury anything. And whilst out there, at like the halfway point of the book, he gets swallowed by the whale, and it's nothing like The Martian, not at all. And it's pretty much you have alternating chapters between being in the whale and then like pretty much recent times and past times. And all you get is this child who gets abused over and over again by his whole family. Like, his father doesn't get the perfect son that he wants, and he tries and is really abusive towards the son. And then the mother and his sisters are just there like, oh, why won't you have any contact with him? He really wants to talk to him. And the boy's like, because he doesn't love me. He wants nothing to do with me, technically. And yeah, just his whole family wants him to make up with his father because the father is dying. Not because the father in any way is like, oh, I feel sorry for what I've done. No, just because he's dying. And that is more or less the complete book. The parts with the whale are not scary. The book isn't scary at all. Nothing scary about this book. And it's weird because obviously I wanted an adult human being who gets trapped in a whale, and what you get is a child. He's quite literally still a child who is just grieving and who is doing dumb stuff because of grief. And then the book ends where it could have gotten interesting again. So yeah, I gave it 2 stars. I have a hard time giving 1 star, so I gave it 2 stars. I mean, it's readable. It's sad at some points. I'm just angry that nowhere in this book does anyone ever realize how abusive they were towards the guy. And they all make it out to be like he is the really, really bad guy. So yeah, it's really weird. So yeah, really disappointing. It wasn't at all what I wanted. So if you know a good book, a horror book about somebody getting swallowed by a whale, like same topic, but maybe a better book, please leave it in the comments down below. I still want that book. That is just simply not it. Then we have 2 books, but we're starting with the one which I knew I wouldn't like, so it's technically my own fault. But yeah, I finally finished The Ally of Law after my 3rd try at reading it. And the thing is, I really, really loved the first Mistborn series. This is part 1 of the 2nd Mistborn series, so Mistborn part 4. And the thing I don't like is that this is more steampunk western fantasy, and I just don't enjoy that. It's not really a fantasy trope, topic, whatever that I really love. I'm much more of like a epic fantasy person. Like, I love the fantasy that is more inspired by medieval times, and now we have our beloved Mistborn, but set 300 years later in like steampunk times. We have pistols and everything is so different, and I really didn't adjust well to it. And then I don't like the relationship that comes up here, which isn't really a relationship. It's more of a marriage of convenience that is started here, like planned on. I don't like that, which I'm coming to in the second part, because I read that one as well, which was a lot more annoying in that part. And yeah, I didn't really got warm to the characters. They're fine characters, but I don't love them. I don't have any connection to them, but which was really, really sad. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars because it's obviously not a bad book. It's a really beloved book, actually. It's just not for me, and I have to accept that. Sadly, really, really sadly. So yeah, I Love Law by Brandon Sanderson, because I forgot to tell you. Do you know? You know, I think everybody knows this by Brandon Sanderson, but yeah. Then, to get a little bit of a break from those, I read another Kathy Reichs books, and that is Break No Bones. This one I also gave 3 stars. It's more of a 3.5. Where Brandon is doing this camp, where she is doing a summer camp, like 2 weeks, digging at like a site that is supposed to be like a Native American site to find out what was there, because somebody wants it developed, and she is supposed to say, yeah, this site can be developed, or no, there's a burial yard here. And whilst being there, her students actually find a recent grave, or a more recent grave, and then a series of events starts there where they find more and more corpses, and they have to kind of identify where they're coming from. It's like a relatively convoluted plot, but the reason why I give 3 stars is because of the personal thing. This is one of the few where the personal life of her is like a really, really, really big point, and it's a kind of a weird 3-way relationship thingy. She has an ex-husband. She's not divorced, but they are separated because her husband cheated on her. And what really, really annoyed me in this book is that she's actually reconsidering going back to him, because obviously she has still feelings for him. She didn't want to separate, her husband cheated on her. But now she has something with Ryan, who is a cop and who's a really cool guy. And then her husband comes around, they stay in the same villa from friends at some points, and she really isn't sure about her feelings. And it's a really, really annoying scenes in here. And yeah, I don't like it. Let's just keep it as it. But that is the reason why I give 3 stars, because it kind of got me off of the case. Like, I wanted the book to focus on the case, and the personal life of the character was just too much in the way for me personally. And then we're coming to the last book that I read in March, which I finished yesterday, and I also gave it 3 stars. And that is the second one in the second Mistborn trilogy, Shadows of Self. And this one I found to be even more annoying. I can't really tell you the story, obviously. I don't want to spoil you. But the thing is, this like arranged marriage kind of thing in here, I hate it. I cannot stand it. I think it's a cheap story progression thing. Like, it's a really cheap trick in my opinion, and Brandon Sanderson is better than that. I don't get why people love these so much. I feel like it's such a cheap story device, and I feel like he can do so much better, and he has done so much better. So why do I feel like these suck so much? I don't know. I gave it 3 stars because it's a personal opinion. The setting is already a problem for me, and then the story devices come on top of that, which I just don't enjoy them. So yeah, I cannot get into the characters. Obviously, I will still read the 3rd part because I do own all 3, and I do want to kind of finish that. I probably won't pick up the 7th one because I don't own that yet, and I don't think it will get better for me. But yeah, I find these to be really annoying because I feel like he is better than that. That's just my opinion, but I feel like it's a really, I don't know, they're too short, they're too rushed at the same time. There are story devices in there that I don't feel were necessary, and yeah, it's a really, I don't know, it's just irritating, to be honest. I don't know. I didn't love them. So yeah, 3 stars. I should give them 2 stars, but I can't. I just cannot. I feel too mean giving them 2 stars because it's such a personal problem, with the setting that I don't know. But it feels so westerny, and I really don't like westerns. I really don't. I don't know. Could never get into those. But yeah, those were all of the books that I read this past month. I'm actually really, really happy with what I've read, and I made a lot of progress in the Kathy Reichs series. And yeah, let's hope that the next month will also be a good reading month. And yeah, if you have read any of these books, how do you like them? Leave me a comment down below, and hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!